And it was actually a couple of weeks ago. I was on the tenor, and this wasp landed on the neck, and it was just wandering towards me.
We'll get back to that story in a second. But if you play solo saxophone or are thinking about getting started playing solo saxophone, you'll want to watch this video. That was Chris. He's one of our Sax School members. And in today's video, we're having a conversation about a residency that he's just completed performing solo sax in one of the top venues here in the UK. We're going to find out what was really good about the experience and what was not so good, and hopefully also get a bunch of tips that can help you become even better at playing solo sax. Let's get stuck in. So Chris, tell me about this gig. What is the venue and how did the gig come about?
Sure. So the venue is in the south of England, and it's an old coaching house. So 15th century. It's a gastro pub.
That's what we call a fancy pub, right, in England?
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what they call those in America.
Yeah, I don't know. But
a fancy eating pub.
It is. There's a few drinkers there, but by and large people go there to eat.
Okay.
And it's got a nice big outdoor space, which they've spent some money on. So that was the opportunity to play there during the summer.
How did you get that gig then? How did it come about that they asked you to come and play?
Well, it was through. It was a referral from a pro player who's on the south coast, a guy called Steve Turner.
So often that happens. Doesn't matter at what level I talk to players. It comes from connections. Right?
Yeah.
Those connections are important, and not only knowing the people, but letting them know what sort of things you're looking to
Exactly.
do.
Yeah. So the opportunity came from him. I spoke to the venue. There was a manager there. And then actually myself and family went down there for lunch to check it out. We spoke to the fella and came away, and I then agreed to share some of the videos that I'd put on Sax School to show him that I could actually play.
Yeah.
And he said to me, he walked out the back and he said, "Oh, you know, we had a lady singing here last year, and she just sat in the corner and sang old songs. And we don't want that. We want someone, you know, who's playing modern stuff. She wanders around." And I thought, "Oh goodness, you know."
Oh, so the pressure's on.
Yeah, and I think actually you'll remember I did actually ring you as one of your Accelerator students. Because, I don't know if you heard the panic in my voice, because I'd agreed to do this. To do this, and I thought, my goodness, you know, my playlist. I think the newest I had was like Baker Street. You know.
Well, I wanted to ask you about that because you've been playing sax for a long time.
Yeah.
In lots of different type of projects, in bands and I guess community things and stuff.
Yeah.
But this is the first time we've done a solo gig. So what was different about doing your normal saxophone playing that you had to do differently to prepare to do a solo gig?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is the first time I'd done a paid spot. Instantly, you know, you feel you've got to do something different than you've been doing with your sort of when you've been playing to your friends and family. So, and also they wanted 2 sort of 45-minute sets. They had an early lunch and later, you know, one at 12:30 and one at sort of 2:30, and they wanted sort of someone to be background playing 45 minutes an hour for each. So that's quite a lot of material. That's 20-25 songs. So there was that, and there was also, you know, I had to sort of step up, because it's one thing playing for friends and family, but when you're actually in front of a bunch of strangers and you're being paid, you've got to be a bit more professional.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we spent a lot of time talking about this actually, didn't we? Like choosing which pieces, but also, that process of the performing aspect of it.
Exactly, yeah.
So was it more of a challenge choosing which pieces would appeal to the audience? Because
definitely,
before you do your first gig, you don't really know the people, right? Unless you obviously go and do some scouting around.
Yeah, well, that's right. We had a lot of discussions. I you know, from that early discussion, it was clear that I had to not just play old jazz standards and swing tunes and, you know, a few of the 80s kind of things. I had to bring it up to date. So you referred me to Brendan Ross, I think it was, wasn't it?
Who's done some pop sax courses in the sax school for us.
Yeah, they're absolutely fantastic, those backing and those tunes. So at the end of it, I mean, I think you have to play what you enjoy playing, don't you? But you also have to have a broad sort of appeal, don't you? Really,
cross-section.
To everyone. But there's no hard and fast rules of it. But I think I've come up with a set list, and people have said, having listened to me, you know, that they enjoyed the range that I gave.
So did you have to make a lot of changes to your set list, add things in, take things away? Yeah.
So I tried to sort of group it up into sort of genres. So I'd have sort of 2 or 3 soul, and then some swing, and then some 80s, and then some more modern stuff. So I had little clusters of sort of styles.
Like little mini sets.
Yeah, exactly, and work through those. And I also, the other thing is I did an alto set and a tenor set, you know, so I was on the same instrument for 45 minutes an hour.
Okay. Hey there, I just want to jump in quickly and say if you've ever wanted to get started performing as a solo sax player, we've got a fantastic free guide that'll help you get there super fast. In fact, it's packed with so much information that you need, from choosing a microphone to which PA and sound gear you should use, how to put together the perfect set list, how to use your backing tracks and which platform or app works best for that, and even tips on how to be a more confident performer and how to go about finding your first gigs. It's called the Saxophone Player's Guide to Performing Solo. It's completely free. I'll pop a link in the description down below. Make sure you go grab your copy today. There's so much information there that I know is going to help you. Right, let's get back to the video.
Made me most nervous was not the playing, but actually the memorizing of things, because I felt I should be able to play some of them without standing behind the sheets, So that, and I'd never done that before. So that was what I spent a lot of time on. Okay. And actually, I think, of those 25, I think I probably memorized a total of, all the way through about 5 or 6. Some of them just the main sax bit, okay. So I would memorize it and then I'd go back to the sheets.
Right.
But that's what stressed me out most. And actually, it was like a couple of weeks before my first performance, actually, and I thought, yeah, give yourself, what's stressing me out? Okay, it's just that, actually losing track of, because I've stood away from the sheets. So I thought, well, give yourself a break. So actually, for the first 1 or 2, I didn't do that,
Okay.
I stood,
Use the music,
yeah. And then progressively, as I got more confident, I would step back from them, either for the whole performance, the whole song, or just bits of it, and then go back to the verse or whatever.
So you would have found, though, over the process of doing this season, because you've just finished doing a season there of shows, that your confidence would have been growing, and you'd be able to memorize more tunes as well, right? So if you were doing this again next year, you'd have even more that you'd memorize, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I think most people are like that. I think people who are new to the whole solo performing thing have got this idea that everybody starts with everything memorized, and it's not really the case. It's a process of learning, like we're all humans.
It is, yeah. But that's the thing that actually scared me most. So I sort of stepped back for a little bit, and then when I got confidence, did that. And when you can do it, because it's a wonderful feeling. Yeah. And I think you play the songs better than you do when you're reading as well. Yeah,
absolutely. Because you're actually spending more time listening than looking. And it's also good from an audience point of view, because you get a chance to really connect with the audience.
Yes.
You can watch them, you can interact with them because you're not looking at the music, and they feel like you're playing to them.
Yeah.
Which is really important.
Yeah. Oh, it's great. So I would definitely continue with that route. Yeah.
So on that, how did you feel about that process of being up in front of people? Was that confronting, or are you quite comfortable in front of people like that?
No, once I start playing, I'm fine. Yeah. So once I get that first number out of the way, and again, something else I did is I'd always start with nice easy ones. Okay. So things that I could play through. Yep. My go-tos are things like Louis Armstrong, Wonderful World, or The Kinks' Sunny Afternoon, or Feeling Good or something. So
you're warming up, but you're also warming up the audience, right? They're getting used to, there's this guy over there playing saxophone, and getting tuned into it.
And once I'd got, just play through one of those, then I could ease into it.
So you sound like you were very pragmatic about the whole process. You thought a lot about your music. You thought a lot about the process of memorizing things, all that sort of stuff. But what went wrong? What things went wrong that you didn't expect?
Do you know what? Not a lot went wrong, but quite a lot could have gone wrong, if you know what I mean. So I had to be quite organised. So, the first thing is actually arriving. We'll talk about the equipment, if you like, at some stage, but I had quite a lot of equipment, and my goodness, how easy is it to just forget a single piece, So I was aware of that. So I did a list, and that I had stuck on my sax case, and I just check a little checklist of all the things I'd take along. And when you're using things like 4-score, you could easily forget to take the loops off, for instance, or the volume between one track and the other isn't right, and many other things that actually would throw you completely. So I would, before I started each track, I would just take a minute, just a quick look, not rushing into it, look at the key, just make sure I'd locked it so there weren't any loops on there, the volume was right, and so that actually, and I had the right pair of glasses on.
So in all those gigs then, you didn't like press the wrong backing track or play in the wrong key or the thing conked out halfway through or anything?
Yeah, I did actually manage to not sort my cables out. So cable came out. So about 3/4 of the way through, what was it? Can't remember. The backing track stopped,
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So that wasn't great. But what I did there was that I think I finished it quite. So rather than me stopping, I actually just finished the little phrase.
Okay.
It was obvious to everyone what had happened.
Yeah.
But rather than just stopping, I actually finished the thing. I actually got a round of applause for doing that.
Oh, that's cool, isn't it?
You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And obviously the thing is you've just got to keep going, whatever. And I would definitely say don't play as I did for the first couple of weeks underneath an apple tree, especially in August, because you've got wasps landing on those apples trying to bury their way in. And it was actually a couple of weeks ago that I was on the tenor and this wasp landed on the neck. And it was just wandering towards me. I'm going to keep going, I'm going to keep going. And I was like feeling good, trying to get this thing to budge, I think I'm not going to stop. And I kept going, and it didn't actually get all the way to me.
So you mentioned that you use 4-score, and you mentioned you got
Yeah.
quite a lot of gear. So
Yeah.
just run us quickly through the basic setup. You got 4-score on an iPad?
Yeah, 4-score on an iPad with the two set lists, and I'd try and rejuggle them around a little bit. I would have that on a stand and quite low down to the side, so that I wasn't playing behind an iPad. I had 2 Yamaha powered speakers. I had a clip-on mic, Shure, that was playing into one of those vocal performance.
Oh yeah, the V20 Boss.
I have it on ballad, I think, which has got a bit of reverb, so it does make you sound a bit better than you really are, type of thing. Finally, it would go into a Yamaha mixing. Little console, so that you could actually get the levels between the backing track, and the iPad was just connected with a simple lead into that.
Okay, makes it easier because some of those speakers are like Bluetooth now, right? But going with a cable, it takes that possibility of things going wrong away.
It was a great set. It was over the top for that venue. I think I probably could have played venue 5 times the size, 200 people. So I had to play. So it was all on low because I was supposed to be sort of background really, and most of the time.
Yeah.
So I had to play sort of quietly and turn it down. Otherwise, people would not be able to speak to them while they're eating.
So you've got a fair bit of gear there. You've got 2 speakers, you've got a mixer, you've got your pedal, you've got your mic, you got your iPad. So there's a few elements that you need to have set up, connected, and all that sort of thing.
Fill the back of an estate car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you, I'm just wondering if you've got any advice for somebody who was looking to start doing this. If they're thinking, Chris has inspired me, I want to go and do a solo gig like you were doing.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be doing more of these too, right? So what tips would you give to somebody who was just getting started? Is there anything you would do differently that you would suggest that they do?
You certainly don't need all that gear that I've got. In terms of, for me anyway, I mean, I played in front of people for quite a while, mostly friends and family, so take any opportunities that you come your way or try and create them. I think the best thing to do is like with the restaurant with sort of signature dishes, is actually rather than do it, choose 3 or 4 that you'll get really comfortable with and really love playing, and that can be your sort of your signature dish, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, okay.
And then you'll build your confidence that way. You want to be on the edge, but not too far on the edge. You want to scare yourself, do you? So play something you're really comfortable with, any opportunity you can, and just build from there. And with all the gear, I think probably you've done videos. There's plenty of other nice, simple one-box solutions, aren't there? That you
definitely.
They're just fine. They work just great.
Particularly like we were saying before with the Bluetooth thing, you can, or some of them you can plug your microphone off your sax straight into the back, like the receiver, and then have a Bluetooth connection with your iPad. So you can be really compact. You could literally walk in with one trip from the car.
Exactly. Yeah. And I've done that. I've done a Fate. It was actually for the coronation up the road, and I just had a busker sort of box thing, So that was me, you know.
Yeah, I love that signature dish idea. That's a great idea, because you know that really helps you to be more confident as well.
Yeah.
Finding 2 or 3 or 4 songs that you
Definitely.
feel really comfortable playing,
Definitely.
and then growing from there.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love
exactly.
that. It's a great tip,
Yeah.
actually. You're on our Accelerator program at Sax School, so
Yeah.
which means that you work one-on-one with me. Did you find that was really helpful in preparation for doing this gig?
Most definitely, Nigel. Yeah, of course, it was fantastic because I had, after agreeing to do the gig, I had thankfully like a month running to bring my set list up to date. So working through with you and selecting those and just getting those songs sort of gig ready so that you're actually happy to perform them. You know, I not particularly. You know, I have to work at. I have to. You know, most people do. I have to work at it. You know, so having that and then having the guidance from yourself all the way through the process was fantastic. Yeah.
Cool. It's good to be able to bounce an idea off somebody, isn't it?
For sure.
Even if it's just like, well, what do you think about this as an order of numbers, or is this number going to be appropriate? Or,
exactly.
You know, those sort of things.
What to include, what to leave out,
Yeah.
and you also get some perspective on it because you can get, you know, a little bit worked up by it, and you know, you remind yourself that you're not playing at Ronnie Scott's, you know, to jazz, you know, aficionados. You know, you're playing sort of background at a nice local venue, but you obviously want to do the best you can. But sometimes you have to not be too hard on yourself.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, yeah.
I think the other thing that you did that was really beneficial, I think, for you, and for anybody else who's thinking about doing this, they should consider doing this too, is doing performance practice in the lead up to the actual gig.
Sure.
And so what we're talking about there is actually working on the whole process of getting all of your gear set up and then running through a number or a group of numbers, 3 or 4 numbers, and working on the transitions, making sure that everything works, and doing it with the mindset that you're in front of people.
Absolutely, yeah. So in those weeks leading up to my first performance, I absolutely was standing in my garden studio room, in my mind, in front of an audience every time, you know, and certainly the numbers which I tried to memorise every day, I would run through those, and actually iron out all the mistakes and errors, because normally if you've made an error, you won't normally make it again, you know. So I by the time I came to perform, I had messed up just about everywhere. You know what I mean? Yeah. But I was confident enough to get back into it and know when and keep going, and you know. So that sort of stage fright about actually, oh God, you're losing your place, you know, in front of people. Well, I've kind of done it I've done it.
Yeah,
many times.
You know how to recover, right?
And knew what to listen for to get back into it and keep going. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So what's the next step then? Are you planning to do more of these? I think you've got the whole setup going now. It's been really successful doing these shows. So are you planning to do more next year? Yeah,
for sure. So I think the venue want me back next year, which is nice. Just play in the same venue every sort of Sunday. That I've got to think a bit more about that. So I've certainly got to introduce some more songs, a bigger repertoire, get better at playing more from memory. The other thing I thought, I don't know what you think, but I'm on the alto and I'm on the tenor. I really do like playing the soprano, and especially the sort of Dixie numbers that we work out. Which you know, the tenor just eases into any situation, doesn't it? You know, beautifully.
Some people really like the soprano, and I think if you've got the luxury of a regular gig, you can test that out. Yeah. Right? You can do a couple numbers and see what the audience reaction's like. So I'd certainly like to try that and see how it goes. Yeah. Cool. Oh, I just say if you're enjoying content like this, don't forget to hit the subscribe button too, so you find out about other videos we're making like this. I'm putting them out all the time, and hey, if they help you, I don't want you to miss out on them. Now, just before we wrapped up this talk with Chris, I wanted to ask him if he had any tips after doing this whole series of gigs that he might be able to share with you. Check these out. Okay, Chris, so with the experience you've had from doing a whole string of these gigs then, are there some practical tips that most people might not think about that you've discovered? Yeah, for sure. So I think in terms of actual performance, because I had a PA system that was overkill for the job, I was playing more quietly than I normally do. And actually, I played much better as a result, I think.
Yeah,
Okay, that's good to know.
So I was really trying to tone it down and dynamics the rest of it. So that was kind of nice rather than trying to sort of blast out every single
So
one.
tip number one is get practiced at playing quiet.
Yeah, for sure. That works really well. In terms of the gear, certainly when you're set up like that and you're outside, you're looking around, you think, oh, there's a dark cloud coming over here, and you think, God, what happens if, it occurred to me early on, what happens if that actually is a quick rain shower?
Yeah.
So I didn't ever have to use it, but I did have some plastic sheeting just ready to throw over all that expensive gear, not the saxes, that would have gone undercover. In the case there was a storm, rather than actually hurriedly having to unplug stuff and then in front of everyone, that wouldn't have been so good.
Did you think ahead about what would happen in the breaks where you weren't playing?
Yeah, so that's right. With the breaks, I thought it was nice rather than silence, so going from a performer to silence, I did actually have a little playlist of backing tracks.
Okay, that's a good idea. So it can be sympathetic to what you're doing as well.
Exactly, yeah, Jimmy Saxes and other things, so, and some of that Brendan Ross material.
Yeah.
So just playing quietly in the background, just so that you're keeping the whole sax, sort of the whole music feel going throughout rather than stop and start. That seemed to work really well.
It's a really good idea, that. I mean, a lot of venues have got the house music that when you finish, they'll pop the house music back up.
Yeah.
But not every venue has. And to have that up your sleeve, I think that's a really good tip for people.
That worked extremely well. The other thing I was going to mention is just in terms of something that I discussed with you and I had to get used to, was that obviously every week the audience was different. And the first week was lots of family and friends in table, so it was great. Lots of feedback. Yeah. The second one, I didn't know. The second and third, I didn't know any. There was no one there.
Right.
And people are eating, and I would finish, and there was nothing. Tumbleweed. I found that quite. I said to you, quite disconcerting, and people were eating and actually afterwards people came up to me and said that was this, that, and the other. But when I was playing through, I was getting very little feedback, and I found that strange. And you start to doubt, so you've got to remind yourself that actually, you are playing a good set list, and you've got some, and you're playing well. But that took me a while to get used to that.
Yeah, it's not always like Wembley, right? So they're not all going to go and rapturous applause at the end of it, because they're there. In this scenario, they're there having a meal. They're having a meal, and you are entertaining them while they're doing that.
Exactly right.
Yeah, there's other stuff going on.
Another little thing about that was that if normally when you've got there's typically sort of 50 or 60 people there, and there's if you look around, there's always some people who are quite more engaged than others. And if you could identify a table without obviously, making anyone feel uncomfortable, and engage with them during the break or when you're playing, a bit of eye contact and the rest of it, then actually you feel like you're performing, to them.
You build a rapport with them.
You feel like you're performing to them and you're getting something back. So that's nice. And then actually that you would find that they would then give you feedback, and that would encourage others to do
brilliant.
so.
Yeah, opens up the floodgates. And I guess also it's really important in these days, when you're doing a gig like that, to have that bond with the audience and encourage the audience maybe to leave you a review or something, right? And try and build up that relationship between you and the venue and the guests. Yeah,
so when I wasn't performing, I was walking around with a hat with saxophone, written on it, sort of thing. So that people knew who I was, so people would come up to me, and I'd often give them details for the events they had, so I dished out a few cars. And at the end of it, certainly, in terms of all the venues are having a tough time at the moment. They're in business. Your performance, they need it to work for everyone. So I'd always try and encourage people at the end. Just mention if they said some nice comments, could you go on TripAdvisor or whatever it is, and just write a nice comment. And actually, consequently, I shared some with you. I got some really nice comments. So the venue's happy, it makes you feel good. And hopefully it means that it's all worthwhile and they'll ask you back.
Hey, thanks for sticking around to the end. I really hope you enjoyed Chris's story and it gave you some inspiration so that you can go play solo as well. But if you want some more tips, go check out these videos next.